Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly Ravenscroft, and I am one of the consultants with Coastline EAP. Thank you for joining today's webinar about dealing with difficult people. And it's true that difficult people exist everywhere. They exist at home and in the workplace, and maybe it's someone you work with, or maybe it's a customer, a patient, or a client. So over the next 30 minutes, we will give you some tips on how to cope with, interact with, and deal with the difficult people that are in your personal and professional lives. This webinar allows you to participate through worksheets and exercises, so please have a pen, worksheet, or piece of paper ready when you so that you can take part in this training. And be aware that everyone has been placed on mute to reduce background noise and minimize distractions. There will be time at the end for questions. So again, thank you for joining the webinar, and let's get started. Have you ever avoided conversations or meetings because you didn't want to risk a conflict with a difficult person? Have you ever lost your patience with certain people or let others push your hot buttons and regretted it later? And have you ever wished you could be more assertive and maintain your composure while dealing with difficult customers, coworkers, family, or friends? We've all been there, and although these situations are common, they do cause us a great deal of stress. Dealing with difficult people is no easy task. Working with difficult people in and out of the office, at home, or in public places can be frustrating and a nuisance. So learning to deal with difficult people is a skill that will give you a real advantage. Difficult people are everywhere. No matter where you go, you will face people who are negative, people who oppose your ideas, people who make you angry, and people who simply just do not like you. There are 6.4 billion people out there, and conflicts are a fact of life. You will find that the key to dealing with difficult people lies with adjusting how you deal with them. Let's talk about the cycle of conflict that happens when we encounter a difficult person. Think about an encounter you had recently with a difficult person. How would you describe the behaviors of that person? Would you say they were rude, aggressive? How about demanding or critical? Sarcastic? Did you catch someone gossiping? Were they using the silent treatment, refusing to help? There are many difficult behaviors, but these are the most common. Now remember your reactions and responses to that person, not how we should respond or how we would like to respond, but how did you react when someone violated your expectations of acceptable behavior? Did you get defensive? That's a very typical response, and anytime we find ourselves getting defensive, that usually means our body's stress response has been activated. And once that happens, our responses are limited to fight, flight, or freeze. So if we decide to fight, we might raise our voices and say with frustration, "You can't talk to me that way. Who do you think you are?" And even if we do not say those words, our tone of voice or our body language might communicate exactly that. So we might be like, "I'm sorry, what do you want me to do?" instead of nicely saying and calmly saying, "I'm sorry, what can I do to help?" Sometimes we find we freeze when our stress response is activated, and that means when we freeze, we might get confused, we might feel panicky, we might shut down, stare at the floor, and look for any excuse to get out of that situation. In this training, we are going to focus on how people can remain calm and confident so we can deal constructively with difficult people. We'll do this through a personal assessment of your attitudes, triggers, and reactions to difficult people. We can learn how to manage our internal and external reactions. We can develop assertive communication skills. We're going to talk about identifying different types of difficult people and learn successful strategies and tips for dealing with difficult people and colleagues. Let's begin by exploring how are you currently dealing with difficult people? You can start by assessing past incidents and learning from them. So recall the last time you had to deal with a difficult or negative person. How did you handle it? How did you feel? How did you respond? How do you wish you had responded? What could you have done differently? There may be some things that you would like to change or even be able to approach these situations with more ease and grace. So let's assess your triggers. On your worksheet, take a moment to write down your thoughts about the following questions. So when confronted with a difficult person, what are some of my own triggers and hot buttons that set me off? How could I currently react to difficult people? And what is my attitude towards difficult people? You could finish the sentence by saying difficult people are, and how would I prefer to respond to and deal with difficult people? So take a few minutes and write down your responses to those questions. Okay. So nothing can change the fact that some people are simply more difficult to deal with. Realize there will always be people in the world that will obstruct you, and though you may not be able to change them, you can change how you react and perceive them. Success depends on being able to recognize and respond appropriately to different behaviors and situations. As we mentioned earlier, the key to success in dealing with difficult people is changing your response to them. The only person you can change is yourself, so focus on changing your pattern of responses. You can work on them by paying attention to your emotions, which is your internal reaction. The quicker you can identify how you really feel, the quicker you will be able to manage your emotions. If you are free from being emotionally reactive, then you are in a better place to change your behavior, which is your external responses. So be calm and centered. The first rule in the face of an unreasonable person is to maintain your composure. The less reactive you are, the more you can use your better judgment and handle the situation. When you feel angry or upset with somebody, before you say something you might later regret, take a deep breath. Count slowly to 10. In most circumstances, by the time you reach 10, you would have figured out a better way of communicating the issue so that you can reduce instead of escalate the problem. If you find that you're still upset after counting to 10, take a time out if possible and revisit the issue after you calm down. Managing your emotions, getting angry or defensive could actually make matters worse. Learn to depersonalize their behavior. The point is to remind yourself that people do what they do because of their own issues. It's not necessarily about you. So as long as we're being reasonable and considerate, difficult behaviors from others say a lot more about them than they really say about us. By depersonalizing, we can view the situation more objectively and come up with better ways of solving the problem. So don't try to or change or fix a person. Think about a time when you wanted to change something about yourself. Maybe you wanted to start exercising or eating healthier. Remember how hard those changes were for something that you wanted to do? The only thing that you have control over is the situation. In this situation is yourself, your reactions, your behaviors. So focus on what you can change, and that is how you will learn to respond better to bad behavior. Prepare in advance. So be proactive instead of reactive. Plan how you want to react the next time this person gives you a hard time. It can be useful to have some go-to phrases ready to diffuse a situation. Like if someone catches you off guard, you could say something like, "That's interesting. Tell me more about that." Or if someone is abrasive with you, "Oh, I'm sorry, looks like I caught you at a bad time. When would be better for you?" You can seek support from a trusted colleague or friend. So depending on who the difficult person is, it may be useful to discuss the situation with your advisor, trusted friend, or family member. Or consider seeking professional support through your human resources department. So now that you have some insight on what you can do to manage and handle your own reactions and responses, let's take it one step further and explore how to communicate effectively and respectfully. Being assertive is a core communication skill and can help you more effectively deal with difficult people. Being assertive means that you express yourself effectively and stand up for your point of view while also respecting the rights and the beliefs of others. Of course, it's not just what you say, your message, but how you say it is also important. Assertive communication is direct and respectful. Being assertive gives you the best chance of successfully delivering your message. If you communicate in a way that's too passive or too aggressive, your message may get lost because people are too busy reacting to your delivery. A quick way to find out if you need to develop your assertiveness skills is to ask yourself, do I have a hard time saying no and setting limits with others? If the answer is yes, then that is an indicator that you need to develop assertiveness skills. A great book to help you develop this is When I Say No, I Feel Guilty by Manuel Smith. But for right now, let's review the basics of assertive communication. Some people are naturally more assertive than others. If your disposition tends more towards being either passive or aggressive, you need to work with the following skills to develop your assertiveness. Value yourself and your rights. Understand that your rights, your thoughts, your feelings, your needs and desires are just as important as everyone else's. But remember, they are not more important than anyone else's either. Believe you deserve to be treated with respect and dignity at all times. Identify your needs and wants and ask for them. Don't wait for someone to recognize what you need. You might wait forever. Understand to perform to your full potential, your needs must be met. Find ways to get your needs met without sacrificing others' needs in the process. Acknowledge that people are reasonable for their own behavior. Don't make the mistake of accepting responsibility for how other people react to your assertive statements. You can only control yourself. As long as you are not violating someone else's needs, then you have the right to say or do what you want. Express negative thoughts and feelings in a healthy and positive manner. Allow yourself to be angry, but respectful. Do say what's on your mind, but do it in a way that protects the other person's feelings. Control your emotions. Receive criticism and complaints positively. So accept compliments gracefully and allow yourself to make mistakes and ask for help. Accept feedback positively. Be prepared to say you don't agree, but Do not get defensive or angry. Learn to say no when you need to. This is the granddaddy of assertiveness. Know your limits and what will cause you to feel taken advantage of. Know that you can do everything. Know that you can't do everything or please everyone, and learn to be okay with that. Go with what's right for you and suggest an alternative for win-win solutions. A good communicator has 3 qualities. They are able to express their ideas to others. They are empathetic, meaning they understand and can respond to the emotional undertones when listening to others. And they are willing to engage in problem solving with others. Expressing yourself assertively occurs verbally, non-verbally, and interactively. Let's review a few of the verbal and non-verbal characteristics of assertive communication. So verbally, it takes the time to think about what you want to say, ensuring you are conveying the right message. Have a relaxed voice with few hesitations. Be sincere and direct without being argumentative or threatening. Validating the opinions and feelings of others without necessarily agreeing with them, and being willing to explore solutions. Non-verbally, much of our communication is non-verbal. About 70 to 90% of our communication is non-verbal. Assertive communication involves body language that conveys openness and receptiveness. You come across as assertive when your posture is upright, your movements are relaxed, your tone of voice is firm, clear, and with appropriate inflection. An assertive person also makes good eye contact and is aware of personal space. Effective listening is an extremely important part of good communication skills. Effective listening involves more than just hearing it. It involves fully understanding the other person's message and then demonstrating your understanding or asking for clarification. How comfortable and skilled are you at being assertive? So now that we've explored some of the ways in which you can manage and improve your own skills in dealing with difficult people, let's discuss different types of difficult people. Let's talk about the 8 types of difficult people that are common in the workplace. First, we have the naysayer. The naysayer tends to disagree with everything, and they often feel powerless or disappointed. The yes person keeps everyone happy. For the yes person, keeping everyone happy is their priority. They may tend to overcommit and fail to deliver. The sarcastic person, otherwise known as the sniper, makes rude remarks, rolls their eyes, and tries to make other people look and feel foolish. The know-it-all, apparently confident, often condescending, their claimed knowledge could be real or fake, and they are often poor listeners. The victim, or the moaner, complains frequently, feels powerless and vulnerable when change is present, and they rarely offer any solutions. The staller or the procrastinator is characterized by delaying or indecision and may use stalling tactics to postpone movement forward on a project. The quiet one, in difficult situations, will withdraw all communication. An aggressive person, sometimes known as a bully, often shows hostility and anger, blatant or concealed, attempts to assert their dominance, and may be physically threatening. So take a moment and identify the difficult person that is the hardest for you to cope with, because we are going to discuss strategies on how to cope with all of these types over the next 2 slides. So the naysayer, they tend to disagree with everything. They often feel powerless or disappointed. So how do we cope with them? Well, we can accept their pessimism while we project optimism. Discuss potential problems or to preempt negative comments, and be prepared to take action on your own. So in an example, it's important to know what motivates a naysayer. Typically, it's fear. You can accept their pessimism by letting them know that you understand their doubts or concerns and letting them know that you will keep it under advisement, but show that you are optimistic that you can succeed. A yes person, the person that wants to keep everyone happy. So to cope with a yes person above all else wants to be liked, they want to please you. So in dealing with them, it's important to let them know that you like them. For them to be honest with you, it's important that they feel safe. So do your best to create that space when talking about a deadline. If the yes person misses a deadline, it's important to talk with them and ask them questions like, what could you do differently in the future so this doesn't happen again? The sarcastic person. So there's two types of sarcastic people. The first kind of more of their personality and make sarcastic remarks about everything, including themselves. But then there's the more malicious type, where their sarcastic remarks are about trying to make themselves look better by undermining others. So there's a couple of ways to cope with a sarcastic person. You can ignore it or not respond to it. You can ask them to clarify, well, what does that mean? Or are you certain? If it's a comment about others, you could say, that has not been my experience, or I don't see it that way. Or you can call them out by asking for a positive solution. Well, I think we have to understand the negatives of this situation, but what are the positives? Then we have the know-it-all. They apparently are confident and condescending. So how do we cope with them? Well, you can cope with them by preparing yourself with the facts. You want to state your position and find ways to invite discussion. There are the victims or the moaners. They're the ones that complain frequently, and so we can cope with them by taking them seriously, listening carefully, and summarizing what's been said, and then ask for solutions to encourage positive engagement. We have the stallers and procrastinators. They're the ones that delay or they're indecisive. So we can cope with them by giving them some time. It might take them a little longer to process information. Show that you have confidence in them and their ability to solve problems, and work with them towards a solution. The quiet ones, they're the ones that will withdraw from communication. So we can cope with them by asking open-ended questions and being patient and allowing time for them to respond. We want to make sure to be actively engaged and be sympathetic and keep the communication channels open with them. So aggressives, or sometimes known as the bullies, often show hostility and anger, and to cope with them, it's very important to be clear and confident, but not aggressive. You need to allow some time for their aggression to dissipate, and you just want to maintain normal eye contact with them. Don't be aggressive in your eye contact, and don't avoid their eye contact, to let them know that you don't have any fear when dealing with them. If you have a bully that has been consistent, you want to speak with your HR department or union about your options. So we're not talking about the type of person that we're not talking about a bully in the workplace. We're talking about someone who just might be more aggressive. But if you are dealing with a bully, you do want to make sure that you speak with somebody, or you can call the EAP for a consultation. So now, dealing with difficult colleagues. The average full-time employee spends more time at work with coworkers than at home with friends and family. This can make for an unpleasant situation when you have one or more coworkers that you dislike. However, it's in everyone's best interest to try to reach out some common ground and make the work environment at least tolerable. So how can you deal with difficult coworkers? So if you're faced with a colleague you find difficult, the first step you can take is take some time to reflect on the situation. Aim to be calm and objective. Step 2, think about what the ideal outcome would be for you. What would you like to accomplish from a conversation with your colleagues? Is the purpose actually a useful and supportive one? Be dispassionate and carefully consider what you want to achieve. Step 3, when it comes to actually dealing with the situation, think of you and your colleague as equals. Step 4, don't be afraid to assert yourself. This can lead to positive results. Don't criticize or blame, and avoid judgmental language. Step 5, try to offer constructive suggestions for improvement. Point out what you both agree on at the beginning of the conversation. This may be a shared goal or value. And step 6, no matter how well the conversation begins, you need to stay in charge of your purpose and your emotions. Things between you and your colleague may not change overnight, but it is worth preserving. And as we wrap up our webinar, here are the key points to remember. So we can all be difficult sometimes, and when that happens, it's important to take responsibility, apologize, and move forward. The key to success in dealing with difficult people is changing how you respond to them. Learning to manage your emotions and staying calm sets the stage for a healthier interaction. Stand up for your own rights and needs while respecting others. And know that you cannot control other people, but by remaining calm and respectful during conflict, you can influence the outcomes. And if you try these strategies over the next couple of weeks and find that they are not working, please call the EAP for consultation. We can help you identify other resources that might be more helpful to you. So I hope you have come away with some ideas on how to work with difficult people in your life. If we can be of further assistance, please contact us by phone at 1-800-445-1195 or locally at 401-732-9444. Remember that Coastline EAP is here for you and your family for confidential consultations on relationship conflicts, stress management, emotional well-being, legal, financial, child care, elder care, and much more. So that concludes today's webinar. Thank you all for joining, and please enjoy the rest of your day.